Hello, welcome to the Value Script. We are excited to be here today. We have in studio the queen of the Value Script podcast, Meredith Carmichael. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, so.
Just trying to build that up a little more than it probably needed to be.
That was good. That was a definite build up.
Yeah, I don't want the same boring intro. Of course, I'm your host, Lonnie Carmichael, and welcome to the Value Script. As we started in our last recording, one of the last recordings, we are going through our 5 Love Languages book series, and Meredith and I have read this book. We have taken notes. We have highlighted, but we have not talked about it on purpose so that we can have those real, raw, live, and awesome discussions with you. However, I will, for the sake of full disclosure, for this episode, we actually did have, I just couldn't contain myself. I read something in here and I was like, hey, I just don't get this. And you'll see when that happens. But we did actually discuss that once before. But I still don't get it. So I feel like it's still authentic and real enough to share as
Should be great.
As it would have been any other way. But anyway, babe, how are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, good. So today we're going to talk about, we're going to dive into words of affirmation. That's the first love language that he talks about in the book.
So what's an affirming word?
Well, things to compliment or lift up your spouse, make them feel good and acknowledge the good things that they're doing. So which is good, and it's important no matter what I think your most powerful love language is. I think it's always good to be mindful and be aware of all of them and work those into your relationship somehow, because it's easy to just be busy in life and whatever, but to be intentional, it's good to focus on all of them.
So while you're speaking of that, does that mean that we have a primary, we haven't really broken down the principle, the premise of the book really. So does that mean most people have one love language, 2, 3, 5, 10, 12?
They usually, he points out, you usually have one that is your primary love language. Sometimes it can be 1 or 2 that are pretty significant to you. But, and also talks about if you're not sure what that is, how you figure that out and ask different questions. And there's things at the end of the book to help you figure out what your love language is.
One thing he points out is that most men think they have a love language. And most men think it's the same one. You remember what
Sex.
Yes. Most men think sex is their love language. And he gets into that as well. And we hopefully will uncover some of that for you. But just to kind of take the cover off the surprise, sex is probably not your primary love language. However, because you're a male and you're driven by testosterone and other hormones, it is a very important part of your identity. So the reason to think about that in that way is that you may or may, physical touch is a love language. That's a primary love language. And that may be your love language, but it may not be your primary love language, but that has nothing to do with sex and the way he breaks this down. Physical touch, does have to do with sex, but not as a love language,
in a sense, yeah.
So, your love language may be words of affirmation, but yet your sex drive is powerful. And so sex is very important to you, but outside of the intimate act of making love to your spouse, then we're talking about everyday life, right? And those things. So he does make a clear distinction in the book regarding that. And I thought it was helpful because before I read this, I thought I had 2 love languages. Listen to the words that come out of my mouth, and which sounds terrible, right? But I usually say what I mean, and I usually ask specifically what I want to know. And so anyway, long story short, and then sex. And so I think I may have a little bit, but not much different understanding of what mine are after we go through all these things. But let's jump into words of affirmation.
Yeah. So where would you like to start? Do you want to just start with things that we thought were great?
Go for it. So one thing I thought was he talks about encouraging words. So words of affirmation is kind of broken down to encouraging words, humble words, and did I miss kind words? Encouraging words, kind words, and humble words. And then there's a notebooks and more section. But encouraging, if you're trying to encourage somebody, it's important to realize that the definition of the word encourage is to inspire courage.
Yeah.
I thought that's interesting.
That way.
Because I think a lot of spouses try to encourage their spouse by saying something like, hey, when can we get some great food around here? Or when in the heck can we clean up the front room? Like, that's not encouraging. That's actually demeaning.
Well, this is like, right? So I highlighted love makes requests, not demands. When I demand things from my spouse, I become a parent and she the child, which is just a good thing to remember, right? To the way you phrase things makes a big difference. It makes all the difference. Like you can say what you want in a way that is demeaning or harsh or makes the other person feel bad, or you can say it in a way that is more like a request or lifts them up in a way. I also loved, so I was reading that from the humble words section, but right above that, one of my favorite things, it's on page 45, it says, I am amazed by how many individuals mess up every new day with yesterday. They insist on bringing in the failures of yesterday, and in so doing, they pollute a potentially wonderful present.
There may be a reason I didn't highlight that.
Why is that?
That might be one of my favorite methods of self-sabotage. It was almost like I'd heard it for the first time when you read it right then. I was like, oh yeah, it does say that.
That's really good. It's really, really good. And also, I loved forgiveness is not a feeling. It's a commitment. It's a choice. It is a choice to show mercy, not to hold the offense up against the offender. Forgiveness is an expression of love. I love you. I care about you. And I choose to forgive you, even though my feelings of hurt may linger. I think that is powerful because so oftentimes, like when we're hurt, it's hard to forgive and we hang on to that and I think it's like a self-defense type thing. Like you feel like you have to
you don't want to get hurt again
like you don't get hurt again, right? And so it's hard to let that go. But I just love the thought of forgiveness is a feeling, forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a commitment. When you're committed to forgiving your spouse, to letting things go and working through and progressing together rather than just staying stuck.
But again, that's not to say you don't have boundaries.
Right.
Forgiveness is not a doormat, it's not an open key or an open door for you to be treated however you want or however badly your spouse may want, right? That forgiveness is not that.
Absolutely.
Right. Maintaining boundaries and self-respect is essential for a happy marriage and a happy relationship. And so I feel like that's important. So I feel like sometimes when you're wanting to be forgiven of something, sometimes there's some blurring of boundaries that go along with the forgiveness process. And I don't think that's a proper practice.
Yeah.
So I want to,
and that can be difficult. I know just from our experiences that is difficult.
I highlighted a little bit the first part of that same paragraph too. And as some of that, it said the best thing we can do with the failures of the past is let them be history. And again, Jordan Peterson saying the only beneficial thing about the past, the only benefit there is in spending any time in the past at all is learning the lessons from the past that can help us move forward into a better future. Spending any other time than that in the past is just setting yourself up for failure or a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, keeping you stuck there in those negative emotions.
And he goes in, he says, yes, it happened. Certainly it hurt. It may still hurt, but your spouse has acknowledged their failure and asked your forgiveness. We cannot erase the past, but we can accept it as history. We can choose to live today free from the failures of yesterday. And then it goes into what you talked about. I loved that. And probably more so because I've been in need of forgiveness, greatly and kind of a lopsided part of the relationship. But there's been times that, it does go both ways and it ebbs and flows. But even from my perspective, like in those same, exactly to what you're speaking to, like, I wanted out of that too. Like I wanted to just have it be in the past and be done and move forward and not stay stuck in all the hurt and for both of us. And so it certainly goes both ways. You can choose to be angry and hold on to it and you did this to me and whatever, but is that really how you want to feel? Do you really want to stay stuck in those emotions? Because I promise you don't. Like it's terrible. So letting go, letting your history just be that history and we learn and we move on. But again, forgiveness is not permission to be treated the same way in the future. Right. No. And that's again where boundaries and self-respect come in. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why some people hold on to those grudges and are so afraid to forgive is because they don't want to give permission to be hurt like that again. And so holding on to that is like a way of making it stick, right? Making it, rubbing it in, but it really is not enabling you to get the outcome you want. You're really just kind of demoralizing your spouse as you hold on to that. So it's important to forgive, but don't forget, right? Forgive, have your boundaries, and then move forward.
Yeah.
But really forgive. Don't hold grudges either. Like, don't forget as in don't hold grudges, right? This isn't a stick to beat your spouse with in the future. I highlighted a couple of things that I thought was kind of interesting beforehand, but I can't really remember the one. Maybe I shouldn't share it, but it's important, talking about like motivating, like encouraging your spouse, right? Encouraging words. It's not, for example, he talks about the wife may want the husband to have a better paying job. And so as she's doing that, the wife, as she may be pressuring him to get a more lucrative job, the wife may be thinking she's doing a good thing, inspiring him. But unless he has a desire to do the same, it's going to come across as demeaning. It's going to come across as insulting. And her words, rather than bolstering his desire to succeed, are going to come across as an insult or guilt-inducing and judgmental. Not an expression of love, but an expression of rejection. Like, hey, why don't you make more money? It's like, dang, I guess I'm not enough.
So he takes it like he doesn't have a good enough job for her.
Right. Like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not producing good enough. And unless he is on the same page of like being self-reflective and thinking, yes, I could do better. Right. And I am looking for that. And she's like, hey, and then she's a part of that excitement of looking towards greater things. Right. He may be thinking he's doing his best. And she's like, dang, why can't he make more money?
Well, it's all in the way you phrase it and the way you talk about it. Like you were just saying, like, in the pursuit of doing greater things or growth or whatever, like that's uplifting and building. If you're just focused on, hey, we don't have enough money and this is, whatever, creating all this negative outcome, it's a different mindset, a different way of approaching it where you're really saying the same thing, but one is positive and one is negative.
Right. Well, another one he points out, and I can't necessarily find it, but it's talking about how you say things and what, but if you're saying like, if you say, hey, I really enjoyed that, whatever, chicken tortilla soup you made. Or, hey, could you make a version of this? I would love to enjoy something like this for dinner, whatever it is, filet mignon. Can you make me filet mignon tonight for dinner? Rather than saying like, hey, when are we going to get some decent food around here? Right. Like might be more what I'd be inclined to, hey, when can we finally get some food that I like? You know what I like? What are you doing? Versus like actually make a suggestion like, that might be constructive. And kind of the way you say it. And again, encouragement, if you're going to inspire courage, you actually have to dig in and understand your spouse. It requires empathy and kind of being able to see the world from your spouse's perspective. And so, walk a mile in their shoes for a minute before you try to inspire courage as to maybe what they are or not doing, that they can do better, because you may have your perspective may be off. And you also need to learn what's important to your spouse if you're going to inspire courage in those areas, because you may be trying to inspire something they don't care about, or they don't think is a problem. And that again becomes destructive. He talks about kind words. Sometimes your voice says one thing when your words say another. That's, kind of interesting. Love doesn't keep score of wrongs. How come I highlighted so much more in this chapter than you did?
I don't know.
Is this me? Is this me needing to learn these things, or is this me yearning to heal from the trauma? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I don't think I keep score of wrongs.
I didn't say you did. So, I'm just saying, but I know some people that do.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Love does not keep score of wrongs, and love doesn't bring up past failures. If you've already covered it, you already burned that bridge. Don't go back and rebuild it so you can drive over it 400 times. Right.
Right. Yeah. That's a big one.
Yes. Perfect. All right. Roll forward, babe. What else you got?
Okay. So, did you want to talk about, yes.
This is the husband that says, could you make that good pasta one of those nights, is giving his wife guidance on how to love him and how to build intimacy. On the other hand, the husband that says, can't we ever get a decent meal around here, is being whiny and is making a demand. The wife is likely to fire back, okay, you cook. The wife who says, do you think it'd be possible for you to clean the gutters this weekend, is expressing love by making a request. But the wife who says, if you don't get those gutters cleaned out soon, they're going to fall off the house. They already have trees growing out of them. that wife has already ceased to love and has become a domineering spouse. So
the way you say things.
It's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In order to say it correctly, you actually have to feel it correctly. And if you don't feel it, that means probably need to work on you more than you think.
Well, and part of it goes back to understanding and trying to empathize with what's on your spouse's plate. What, like, is, you know, if you're upset about certain things that aren't getting done, well, why aren't they getting done? Or like, is your spouse like slammed with whatever phase of life they're in right now, and maybe they need a little extra help so that they can get to whatever? I don't know. Just having that empathy and try to
Sometimes
understand.
that honey-do list is long.
With the way you're saying it too, like the way you're delivering to your partner, I learned, because when I was younger, I had foot and mouth disease where, you know, I would just say whatever it was, however it was. And then I learned, you know, okay, she's having a terrible day at work. Now I got to reassess how I'm going to deliver something to her. Otherwise, it's going to be taken in a way wrong way than I did not intend it to be.
Right.
That's absolutely. So it's just, you know, it's just like what he said, you know, you have to say things with empathy. In order to do that, you have to have a fundamental understanding of your spouse and their perspective and seeing the world from what they're going through.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So there's a little wrap up at the end of each chapter, words of affirmation, a quick example.
What chapter is that one?
This is chapter 4.
Okay.
I believe. Thanks for saving me, because I actually didn't have a quick example.
Oh,
he just says words are important. So remind yourself, words of affirmation. If it is your primary spouse's love language, print the following on a card and put it in a mirror or place where you'll see it daily. Words are important. Words are important. Words are important. So if that's your spouse's primary love language, you need to, and you're not good at it, work on it. For a week, keep a record of all the words of affirmation you give your spouse each day. You might be surprised how well or how poorly you're speaking the words of affirmation. Set a goal to give your spouse a different compliment each day for 1 month. Learn to say I love you or express other words of affirmation in different languages is an idea. Compliment your spouse in the presence of his parents or friends. You get double credit. Look for your spouse's strengths and tell them how much you appreciate their strengths. Be specific. Be specific, like, such as, I like how you reach out to people at church you don't seem to have anybody to talk to, or you're really keeping up with the job search. I know it'll pay off. Rather than be like, when are you going to finally get a job? Right? One's powerful, one's demeaning. One's going to yield towards the results you want, one isn't. Occasionally email or text a note of affirmation during the day when you or the loved one is traveling. I have learned that surprise messages often have the deepest impact. And thank your mate for something they do routinely and wouldn't expect to be complimented for. Boom. This is a little bit of a bomb. I have said this before and it's caused a massive fight, but it is on page 56. It is the it's really the beginning of the first full paragraph here. Have you ever noticed in a restaurant, you can almost always tell the difference between a dating and a married couple? I'm just going to walk away for a minute. Let the smoke clear.
Okay. Man, I don't know that you want me to talk about this right now, but we can. You can let me know.
Well, let's talk about Friday night. We were at dinner. We're a married couple.
We are a married couple. Yes.
Just to clarify.
Just to clarify.
And oftentimes we present as a dating couple. And remember the couple that was like to our, like, I don't know, goodness, 2 o'clock?
Yes.
Were they married or single? Were they married or dated?
Probably married.
They had rings. I checked.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
they were definitely married.
Yeah. No.
And how could you tell? How could you tell?
Well, they were both on their phones. They weren't talking at all.
The woman looked mad as hell, and she didn't say 10 words to him the whole hour we were there. Well, he didn't either.
Both.
I could only see. I could see her. I could see her. I couldn't really see him.
Yeah, they weren't engaged
by the way
each other. They
we
weren't talking, and that happens a lot. Where there was another couple, you know, like they're sitting at the table, they're like at a corner like this of the table, and they're totally leaning into each other, laughing, talking to each other, and like totally different dynamic. It's a real thing.
Now, if that first couple didn't have rings, does that look like a nervous first date? Or where were you?
In a P.F. Chang's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it would have been an awkward first date. I mean, dude, she was like pissed and like.
Really? So
who knows what he
And
said to her beforehand?
He was
I don't
just
know.
on his phone.
Right.
I don't know.
because I'm not gonna lie, I love to people watch.
Yeah,
when I go
totally.
places, so I evaluate that myself. I'm always like, oh, that couple doesn't look like they're having a good time. I wonder if they're first dating.
But I mean, babe, so like that came up. I brought that up at one of the worst times in our marriage. And
Yes.
that's the reason why she's saying what she is about it. But I had noticed that a while before. I just didn't have the tenacity to bring it up because I don't know. I didn't necessarily think it would go well, but it is something I had considered. Like, honestly, married couples, people that are married for a long time, treat each other differently than when they were trying to make themselves fall in love with each other.
Right.
And I think that's a fundamental problem of being married. Not a fundamental problem with the institution of marriage, but a fundamental problem that many married couples find themselves in. You know, like before you get married, this person can do no wrong. You know, their farts don't stink. They probably don't even fart. You know, who knows?
Well,
right? They're
it's that-
perfect. Their skin doesn't have anything wrong with them. Their hair is always glowing. Their personality is always engaging. You just can't wait to spend all your day and all your nights with them, thinking about them, doing these things. And then you get married, and a couple years later, it's like, how's it going?
Well, it's exactly what it talks about in the beginning of the book. It's that beginning in love phase that does not last. Like it will last for 2 to 4 years. 4 years if, you know. And so that's just the way relationships are.
It's not quite the way he wrote it, but I got what you meant. All right.
That's exactly how he wrote it.
Well, it depends. Okay.
Right. That's why, that's what that was.
All right.
So, but no, it is a dynamic problem within relationships. And that's where you have to be intentional about all of these things, all of these love languages that help your spouse to feel loved and help your relationship to stay connected and great.
So if your marriage feels as though it's kind of less exciting than you would like, he talks about that. And really he gives hope that if you learn, I'm getting all choked up by the minute. It's more of what I ate than the emotion. But anyway.
emotional beast.
Yeah. This is more of the inner food beast. There's hope though. There's hope because he talks about if you learn to speak your partner's primary love language, most likely they will come back alive in love, and you'll feel that, and it will greatly bless your relationship, and it'll bring that spark back. Mm-hmm. Right? And he's seen that, and I don't know. I was even telling my friend Albert, if you're listening, there's your plug. We were talking about you a couple weeks ago.
All right.
And I said something to the effect that made him respond. So does it feel like you guys are on another honeymoon phase of your life now?
Well, look at that.
Looky there, right? Like it can't come back. We've been married 23 years. 23 years. 23 years.
Been plugging along.
Yeah, I used to tell her happy anniversary. And then I'd be like, doesn't feel like a day over 30 years of marriage.
You would say that to me often.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Every anniversary. Yes.
That's because I'm a big fat jerk.
One thing that's this is really great though. In
Wait.
speaking,
Let's go back. I was trying to be funny, babe.
Yes. Oh,
Eject. All right, here we go.
perhaps I missed the message.
All right.
I'm a big fat jerk. Just continues.
Jump into Gary Chapman. Here we go. Save me fast.
Hilarious. No, but speaking to that same thing on page 59, talking about focused attention, it isn't enough to just be in the same room with someone. A key ingredient is giving your spouse quality time is giving them focused attention. So just like that, if you go to dinner and you're sitting on your dang phone the whole time, like that's not fun. That's not engaging.
What if you're on your phone first?
It doesn't.
And then I pull my phone out because I'm feeling like jealous of your phone.
Well, that's a problem. I shouldn't do that.
Then you look like that couple that you guys saw at your 2 o'clock.
Exactly.
Man, as long as I don't look that mad.
No, but it's good. I think it's a big deal. I think just in general, we're on our phones way too much and we lose out on.
I don't know what you're talking about, honestly. Really.
But you lose out on that time in the moment. You're not being in the moment with anybody if you're just on your phone.
I agree.
Anyway.
On
Good
page
stuff.
63, give some steps to we're in another subject, quality conversation.
Hey, wait.
What?
We have to go back to page 55.
Well, you already jumped to 59.
I know.
Yeah,
I did.
'cause
Oh,
I
We have to go back.
55.
Wasn't 55 the one that you
She wants
guys...
to highlight how great of a husband I am. All right, here we go.
Yes. Yes.
Was
that.
55 the one that you guys didn't agree on?
I think it was
Yes.
56. Was
Was
it?
it
I don't know. It was when they were talking about going on a dumb picnic.
Yes. Yes. Page 58. Sorry, page
There
58.
you go.
Okay. Here was our.
Hit it, babe. What you got?
Okay. So at the bottom it says they were making a list of things that they could do together. And on her list, oh no, this is Mark's list.
No, this is like what you do on your list, right?
Right. So it says go on a picnic with her and the kids on Saturday and don't complain about the ants and the flies. And you were like,
And I was like,
what
dude,
the heck?
I was like, why does she got to throw that? Like, okay, so if you're, I don't know, anywhere it's freaking humid, right? So you're in Arizona in the summertime and you're by a lake and there's bugs, or if you're in Florida any time of the year and there's bugs, or, you know, anyway, and you go on a picnic and there's freaking mosquitoes and flies rounding your face the whole time. Why is it bad for me to be like, dang, there's freaking mosquitoes and flies? That's not your fault. Everybody knows that. You didn't put them there.
Perfect.
I'm just commenting on this is not like I'm not loving the mosquitoes and flies.
Okay. And that's fine. But I can totally see her point of like, if you already know your spouse doesn't want to do something, in this case, she already knew her husband really didn't want to go on a picnic. And she's just saying, let's just go do this. And please don't complain about blah, blah, blah. So
I still don't understand why she's got to take it personal that she didn't put the freaking
Because here's the
mosquitoes and flies
difference.
there and everybody knows that.
Because here's the difference. If you already know your spouse doesn't want to be there, as soon as it's like, oh, freak, why are we doing this? There's so many mosquitoes, so many flies. Like, this is so dumb. Like, we could be at home in the air conditioning without all the bugs. That's the difference.
So what did you present? Like,
Because-
babe, this is such an amazing idea. It's a beautiful ambience, beautiful. Did I even say ambiance? How do you say that freaking word? Anyway, so then beautiful setting. There's a lake. The sunset's gorgeous. This blanket's so much more comfortable than a chair ever would be in a restaurant. And there's a breeze, so I don't have to miss that we don't have air conditioning. But just these stinking bugs. The stinking bugs, right? Like
Just say it quick. These mosquitoes suck.
mosquito sucks. The mosquitoes are sucking. Nope. Still can't do it.
You can't. It's not that you can't mention that, but if you're complaining about the whole thing of being there, like, I already know you don't want to be there. Like, you know what I mean? So it just makes you feel, it just ruins the
Ambiance.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I can see that side of it.
So this is where you don't want actually for me to be honest.
Is this one of those agree?
Yes, we get that all the time too.
Is this one of those agree to disagree things?
We get what?
You say crap like that all the time, so you don't want me to be honest.
I mean, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It depends on if there's mosquitoes at our picnic.
Just understand.
No, I get it.
That's how it is.
No, I think it was great that you pointed out that, like, okay, so if, I don't know, even if you're not tremendously insecure about the activity, if it's an activity that your spouse has planned and wanted to have a nice experience with you and you're pointing out the negatives of it in any way, it's going to not be reflected on the experience as a positive, great one. It's going to be reflected on it as a negative one.
You could, I just thought of this, you could deliver it, the sentence, as, oh, dang, I should have brought mosquito repellent. It's not like...
Still bringing up the negative, bro.
No,
I think you're missing the idea.
But oh, good gracious. It's not that you
Citronella
can't.
candles.
It's towards the beginning of the book. It's how you
People are
deliver
going to be
it.
like, these idiots spent 20 minutes talking about ants and mosquitoes.
Yeah, I know, right?
Good heavens.
I'm just saying there's a high chance if we go on a picnic and I'm getting swamped by bugs, I'm going to have to remember this chapter is what I'm saying. There's a high chance I'm going to have to remember this chapter. all I'm gonna say.
You're going to come back with 1,000 bites.
And I won't
And
complain
love
about it
every
once.
one of them.
Exactly.
Ever. Because if you do. No, I did. I think I understood the point.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
All right. A relationship calls for sympathetic listening with a view to understand the other person's thoughts, feelings, and desires. We must be willing to give advice, but only when it's requested, and never in a condescending manner.
Is this farther in the book?
This is on page 63.
Okay.
Hey, I highlighted that too.
Interesting.
Really?
That's fast. So we're so connected, babe.
We're so connected.
So connected. But
Just ignore the last part of the podcast. But yes, now you guys are very connected.
hey, you didn't need to point that out, bro. Okay. Sometimes less is more. All right. All right. So, no, I love that. A relationship calls for sympathetic listening. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't know the statistics, but I do know quite a few couples, and I do know quite a few of us, you and me. Multiple us's, quite a few us's, quite a few me, more than anything else. I listen to respond. Like if we're having a fight, I want to make sure that my argument gets heard. I want to make sure that I am understood, right? And so I'm listening to respond. And
you're so dang smart. You are so smart. You can argue anything.
I'll clip that.
That I'm so dang smart.
Highlight it.
Wait, do you want to say that again?
You're so dang smart, babe.
I like
You really
said
are.
it better the second time.
Okay. I'm gonna cut the second one.
That was my favorite one, bro.
That's for you two. Like,
Whatever.
You
Bro,
are.
sex
you
sells.
are
I mean,
the-
come on. That's
Good gracious. All right, guys, thanks for joining us today. We're going to wrap up. We just finished talking about words of affirmation, and next time we're going to talk about the next chapter, chapter 5, quality time, which we, have some fun discussions about that. Super great. So you'll definitely
some
want to join us.
passionately charged
Passionately
heat comes
charged.
into chapter 5, baby.
Just a little bit.
You're not going to want to miss
A little
it.
bit of heat. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Clickety-click, like and subscribe, share with your friends. We appreciate you spending your time with us, and we'll see you next time on The Value Script.